In the summer of 1944, an entire German army group was ripped apart so fast that even some German officers called it the greatest disaster of the war. Not Stalingrad, not Normandy, somewhere far less famous, Belarus. In a matter of weeks, divisions disappeared from the map. 28 German divisions were destroyed or shattered. Hundreds of thousands of men were killed, wounded, or captured. The proud Army Group Center, once driving toward Moscow, simply ceased to exist as a fighting force. How did this happen so fast? How did an army group that looked secure on maps turn into a broken mass of fugitives? This is Operation Bagration, the Soviet offensive that quietly broke the Eastern Front in half.
To see why Bagration was even possible, we have to rewind. In 1941, Army Group Center lunged toward Moscow. It failed. In 1942 and 1943, Germany bled at Stalingrad and then at Kursk. After Kursk, the initiative slipped from German hands, and it never truly came back. By early 1944, the map hides a dangerous truth. In the center, Army Group Center still holds a broad swath of Belarus, the land bridge between the Baltic and Ukraine, with roughly 800,000 men. It looks solid, like a stone pillar holding up the front. But look closer. Hitler has drained mobile reserves to plug crises in Ukraine. Divisions are under strength, armor and fuel are short. The Luftwaffe can no longer dominate the air. On the map, the line is thick and straight. On the ground, it's brittle. And in Moscow, the Stavka is watching.
For 1944, Soviet planners want more than just another push. They want a break, a collapse that Germany cannot easily repair. Their answer in the center is a single word: Bagration. 4 fronts are quietly lined up against Army Group Center. 1st Baltic on the north flank, 3rd Belarusian and 2nd Belarusian in the center, 1st Belarusian to the south. Around 1 million men, over 1,000 tanks and self-propelled guns, and massive artillery and air power are concentrated for one campaign. But the real genius is not just the numbers, it's the misdirection. Through maskirovka, deception, the Soviets stage radio traffic, troop movements, and fake buildups to make it look like the main blow will fall again in Ukraine. German intelligence agrees. The danger, they think, is in the south. Behind this smokescreen, the real hammer is being raised over Belarus. And there is one more detail. The chosen start date is 22 June 1944, exactly 3 years after Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa. The Soviets intend this to be more than just an offensive. It's an answer. Opposite them stands Army Group Center under Field Marshal Ernst Busch. It commands 3rd Panzer Army in the north, 4th Army in the center, 9th Army in the south, and 2nd Army further to the rear. On paper, it is still a formidable force. The Germans hold river lines, prepared field fortifications, and strong points around key cities like Vitebsk, Orsha, Mogilev, and Bobruisk. These positions could have formed the backbone of a flexible defense, buying time, trading space for survival. But Hitler has other ideas. He orders that many of these places be turned into fortresses held to the last man. Withdrawal to shorter, more defensible lines is repeatedly refused. Army Group Center is told to stand firm, even as its flanks thin and its reserves vanish. And now, for the first time on this scale, the Red Army has something it lacked in 1941: overwhelming artillery and powerful air support. In the Belarus sector, the Luftwaffe is too weak to stop Soviet aircraft from prowling almost at will. Operation Bagration doesn't start with tanks, it starts with railway tracks exploding in the dark. In the nights of 19 to 20 June, Soviet partisans across Belarus launch one of the largest coordinated sabotage campaigns of the war. They blow bridges, cut telephone lines, and destroy sections of rail track that German supply trains depend on. By the time the main offensive begins, German logistics in the region are already bleeding. Trains are delayed, rerouted, or destroyed. Reinforcements that might have plugged gaps will now arrive late, or not at all. Army Group Center is still standing, but the ground beneath it is beginning to crumble. At dawn on 22 June 1944, 3 years to the day since Barbarossa, the Red Army answers. Along hundreds of kilometers of front, Soviet artillery opens up in a rolling storm of fire. Survivors later say the earth itself seemed to shake. Under this barrage, Soviet rifle divisions move in, followed by tank and mechanized corps waiting to exploit any sign of weakness. In many sectors, the first German trench line is overrun in hours. Strong points crack, not under a single blow, but under layers of fire, smoke, and non-stop attacks. In the north, near Vitebsk and Orsha, Soviet forces aim to smash the northern shoulder of Army Group Center. Here, German units cling to fortified positions, but Soviet infantry keeps coming, and once tank units are fed into the breaches, the front starts to bend.
Vitebsk juts out like a tooth into Soviet lines. Hitler declares it a fortress and forbids withdrawal. On a map, it looks like a strong point. In reality, it's about to become a trap. Soviet armies don't attack Vitebsk straight on. They go around it, cutting roads and railways, isolating the city from the rest of Army Group Center. German divisions inside are ordered to hold. But hold what once the lifelines are gone? Within days, the Vitebsk pocket is sealed. Attempts to break out fail. Most of the garrison is killed or captured. A so-called fortress has just vanished, and with it, a chunk of 3rd Panzer Army.
And Vitebsk is only the beginning. Farther south, near Orsha and Mogilev, Soviet attacks punch across rivers and secondary defensive lines. German units receive conflicting orders: hold this line, retreat from that one, counterattack here, with reserves they no longer really have. Communications fail. Partisan damage, Soviet jamming, and sheer chaos make it hard for commanders to know where their units even are. By the time permission to pull back is granted, Soviet spearheads are already behind key positions. In the south, 9th Army near Bobruisk tries to fall back through marshy terrain under relentless pressure. Soviet forces swing around them, forming yet another pocket. Columns of German troops and vehicles jam narrow roads, then come under air attack. Bombed from the air, blocked on the ground, many German formations lose most of their heavy equipment. What escapes is often no longer an army, just groups of exhausted men moving west on foot. As reports of encirclements and collapses pile up, Army Group Center's HQ becomes a storm of desperate messages. Field Marshal Busch pleads with Hitler to authorize broad withdrawals. Hitler delays, then refuses, repeating orders to hold fortresses and no step back. On June 28th, with disaster now undeniable, Hitler sacks Busch and appoints Field Marshal Walter Model, the fireman of the Eastern Front, to salvage what he can. Model is skillful and ruthless, but he inherits not a stable front, but a collapsing ruin. By the end of June, the shape of the battle has changed. This is no longer about holding lines, it's about who reaches Minsk first. The Soviets' tank and mechanized corps drive hard, brushing aside scattered resistance and racing for road junctions. One after another, escape routes are cut. East of Minsk, a huge pocket begins to form, filled with shattered remnants of German divisions. Breakout attempts are chaotic. Units are mixed together, low on ammunition and fuel, with little air cover. Some small groups slip through at night, many more do not. When the pocket is finally crushed, tens of thousands are marched into captivity. Around 57,000 prisoners from Army Group Center are later paraded through Moscow in a grim victory procession. In just 2 weeks, roughly 25 divisions have been destroyed and about 300,000 German soldiers killed, wounded, or captured. As the operation continues through July, total German losses climb toward 400,000 to 500,000 men, numbers still debated but staggering either way. Army Group Center, as it existed in June, is gone.
Bagration looks like a one-sided slaughter. It wasn't. Soviet casualty lists for the operation show around 180,000 killed and missing, and nearly 600,000 wounded or sick. Thousands of tanks, guns, and aircraft were lost in the fighting. But unlike in 1941, the Soviet Union can now replace these losses. Its factories are running. Its manpower reserves, though strained, are still larger than Germany's. For the Wehrmacht, there is no easy way to restore what just died in Belarus.
Bagration doesn't stop at Minsk. Soviet armies press on to Vilnius, Kaunas, Bialystok, Brest, and the approaches to Warsaw and the Baltic. In a matter of weeks, most of Belarus is liberated, and the front has jumped hundreds of kilometers west. The destruction of Army Group Center tears open the middle of the Eastern Front. A dangerous gap opens between Army Group North in the Baltics and the forces in Poland and Ukraine. German commanders scramble to form new lines along the Vistula and in East Prussia. But they are building walls with broken bricks. While this is happening in the east, Allied troops are fighting their way inland from Normandy in the west. For Germany, 1944 is not a story of one front or the other. It's the story of both fronts crushing in at once. Operation Bagration destroys the central spine of the Eastern Front. The Normandy campaign breaks open the Western Front. Together, they make the war unwinnable for Hitler in a way no single battle ever could. By the end of Operation Bagration, the map looks completely different. Belarus is back in Soviet hands. Army Group Center is a name without its old meaning. The German army in the east can still fight, still inflict casualties, still counterattack locally, but it can no longer shape the war. This is why many historians argue that Bagration, not just Stalingrad or Kursk, is the real breaking point of the Eastern Front. After this, Germany is not trying to win. It is trying not to be destroyed too quickly. In our Kursk to Berlin journey, Bagration is the moment when the Eastern Front finally snaps. After Kursk and the long winter offensives, the Red Army had pushed the invaders back. With Bagration, it blows a hole in the center that never really closes. If you want to see how the Soviets turned this breakthrough into the final drive on Berlin, across the Vistula, through East Prussia, and into Germany itself, watch the next episode in this series. And if you haven't seen the earlier episodes on Kursk and the operations that set up Bagration, those are linked on your screen. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and tell me in the comments which 1944-45 battle you want to see covered next.